What is good, guys, and welcome to today's video. I'm actually super pumped about this video, and this is kind of like the never-ending saga with the Skyline, with all the issues that we've been having, and it all came down really to one, a bad cam angle sensor, and two, a bad turbo. Let me get into a little bit more because we need to talk about that. We got a new box down there with a brand new turbo for this thing, and yes, it's not the Garrett G30, but it'll all make sense in a second. Just bear with me. I know you guys are going, what the hell right now are you doing, Sam? You told us G3770, you got a turbo from Garrett, engines coming out, new engine going in, whole car's getting rebuilt, resprayed, like bodywork, the whole lot. What are you doing with another one of these? And what? Like, and quite frankly, I'm thinking the same thing. Sam, what the hell are you doing? But, there is some sense to this madness. So I need this car to be able to be driftable for the first couple of weeks of February because we have someone coming and I need two cars up and running so I can teach them to drift, do some cool content and stuff like that for you guys. Now, as you guys know, I've been having a lot of problems with this old Mamba that was on here. They sent this to me about 2 years ago, and we pretty much identified a massive issue with the internal wastegate design and how the little shaft in there the weld would break, and then the flapper would get jammed and cause a whole bunch of boost issues. Sometimes you'd get boost, like it was super responsive, you get boost at like 2900 RPM. Other times you wouldn't get boost until 4000 RPM because the wastegate was getting stuck open. So, after all my feedback that I gave to Mamba about 2 years ago, they actually changed the design way long ago, but they never sent me a replacement to replace this, and I've just been battling with it non-stop. Now, I really want to be transparent with you guys with the parts and the brands that I use on my car, and just being honest with you, I had to pay for this new replacement turbo to be sent to me. Wasn't free, wasn't sponsored, even though this turbo was sponsored. I gave them a whole bunch of feedback and told them things they needed to fix, which are done on this one, yet I had to pay for it. I'm not too happy about that, but it is what it is, and sometimes this is just what happens. So yes, it sucks, but it means we're gonna be able to make a whole bunch of really cool content with the Skyline in February and make this thing reliable so that you know, we can bounce in between cars and stuff like that. So anyways, all of that aside, I want to show you the changes that Mamba made because I'm a little bit salty about the whole situation with having to buy a turbo, but they did make all the changes that I told them to, which fixed the turbo design and makes this thing way more reliable and better. So let me just show you the differences. First of all, I want to show you the old one. You can kind of see where the wastegate sits here on this weird flange that comes straight in here, and I had a bunch of issues getting this lined up perfectly because you can see the brackets maxed out here, and just rotating and clocking the turbo was a bit of a pain in the butt, which you would have seen in the original install video. And then the biggest issue of all is obviously that this keeps getting jarred and stuff and gets stuck on the inside and the flapper gets left open. So sometimes I see spool when I'm supposed to at 2900 RPM. Other times I put my foot on the accelerator and I see full boost not until 45 RPM. So big lag issue, which really affected my performance actually at the final Drift Kingdom. But I didn't really want to make a big deal of it back then. Anyways, I am now. So yeah, the rear housing is really the issue with this turbo. Plus, as you guys know, we've got a bit of an issue there where this thing seems to occasionally randomly like kind of leak out oil from the compressor side. So Mamba, I got the identical turbo as mine. The only difference is there's a 2mm difference in the size of the rear housing. That's a 71 rear housing, and this is a 0.73. Now, let me show you. I sent them a video and messages and all the stuff that I told them they needed to do about welding on the outside of the shaft here. As you can guys see there, there's tack welds everywhere there, which is great to see. I'm really happy that they actually listened to me there. They did 3 tacks, 1, 2, and 3 on the outside for this shaft here on the inside. That then well, it's more of a sleeve that they press into the housing there that then the shaft goes through. They also tighten this up, and overall just made a much nicer internal wastegate. I also told them that they needed to machine the hole out a bunch more. Let me show you. You can see that's actually quite big in there now, and they machined on the inside a fair bit as well. It's hard to see, but yeah. So, internal housing, much better. Also, I've got a bit more of a newer design for the rear turbine wheel, which should see a little bit faster spool as well. So I'm pretty pumped about that. The better, it's like a Gen 2 Garrett kind of version rear wheel that they've developed. that should see a little bit faster spool time, which will compensate for the extra 2mm bigger housing. I mean, 2mm bigger housing is really not going to be much, maybe like 100 RPM, 50 RPM or something like that. I'll put that actuator back on later. You can see the bracket's been completely redesigned for the actuator now, and you got a lot more adjustability there, so I'm pumped about getting that in the right position. And just overall, another thing that I screamed at them about was that there was no lip here. So the silicone couplers sometimes would slide off. So then finally machined a lip in that, which is great too. And we got a much bigger kind of nipple there too for more suitable vacuum line hose that will stay on there. So overall, I like where the product looks right now, and I'm sure this is going to perform. If this performs just as good as that one, if better, I'm happy, because even though I had all these problems that I had to MacGyver and fix on this turbo, it actually performed super, super well. And because of that, I know of at least 5 people here in Japan that got this same turbo, put it on their car. Of course, they got the newer fixed version, but I didn't for some reason. Anyways, I'm salty. All right, let's move past that and let's get on to pulling this whole thing down. I'm not expecting to get this all done today because I slept in from being up so late last night editing. And yeah, so cue time lapse of me pulling everything apart. I didn't want to time lapse this moment because this is pretty important. We're delivering a baby from within the Skyline. It's a bit tight. She might make it, I don't know yet. Come on. All right, push. Push, baby girl. There we go. She's out. She's out. And boy, is she leaking. Pulling this thing apart as quickly as I can because I want to figure out what exactly is going on in the rear housing there. So we're just going to take this dump pipe right off. What do we got left? We got a 12mm there and my Allen key bolts. Love this Tomei down pipe. Okay. There we go. And you know what? Consensus is seems like the wastegate thing is just really loose. Oh yeah, the whole thing's just jiggling around in there. Overall, turbo kind of seems okay. Just looks like the wastegate's getting stuck hardcore. And there you guys go. We got the turbo off, which is everything I wanted to do today. Made a mess everywhere, so we're going to tidy and clean everything up. One thing I also discovered, I've never seen a tyre do this before. See how it's bulged out, the full width around the inside of the tyre? There's bubbles everywhere. Look at this. It's... I don't know. I've never seen this happen before. Look at the bubble there, like... all the way around, and it's all soft to push in, so the sidewall of the tire is completely given out on the inside of this. And what sucks is there's still heaps of use. There's a little bit of camber wear here, but I was getting ready to flip these so I could get like another month out of them. There's no signs of rubbing or anything in there, so nothing's been hitting it, but the full width around the tire is just completely destroyed. That's really weird. I'm going to shoot Valino a message and just ask them what kind of things cause that, because I'd like to prevent that from happening, or if maybe it was just manufacturing fault. I don't know, but that's insane, honestly. It's kind of scary because that could have given out on me. Anyways, that aside, cleaning up everything, and yeah, we'll probably bring this inside and just have a look at the two side by side so you can see the clear differences, and then we'll wrap things up. Just out of curiosity, does anyone else's living room floor look like this? Literally before I started working on the car, I cleaned up everything here because I do all my order packing and shipping on the floor here, and I had, like, you know, my label printer, laptop, and just stickers and things everywhere. So by the way, quick merch plug, get yourself some SAMMIT merch. it's awesome. Anyways, all that aside, two turbos side by side, and I really wanted to do a comparison up close in good lighting to show you the main differences, plus talk a little bit about the product. So these Mamba turbos, they're made in Taiwan. They're not cheap China copy turbos or anything like that. In fact, normally you'll be spending anywhere from $1,200 up to $1,500 for one of these in a kit. So they're not relatively cheap, but they are cheaper than, like, you know, for instance, Garrett, Precision, and all those other brands out there, right? But they perform really, really good. So it's kind of like a middle range kind of product, right? You know, it hits right in the middle of the high end stuff and the super cheap junk stuff. But it's made in Taiwan, and I know for a fact that it's made in the same factories. There's a lot of really big Japanese branded turbos and that are 3 to 4 times more expensive. So anyways, all of that aside, the product is good. Now, this initial turbo that I got from them, it was sponsored. I did a bunch of work with helping them, you know, improve the product, make the product better, gave them a lot of feedback. And it's good to see that they made all the changes that I told them that it needed. That's awesome. It's always good when a company listens to you and makes changes and takes your feedback on. And obviously, you know, there's been a bit of a sucky situation where I was hoping to just get a whole new turbo replaced for this one, but because it expired past its warranty period, even though it was a free turbo and sponsored and stuff, with the new year and stuff, normally companies do sponsorships depending on the type of sponsorship, but in short, they normally have a period and a lifetime, and I didn't reapply for this year for obvious reasons. You guys know we're now hooked up with Garrett and we're staying with them for the rest. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed that, you know, out of goodwill and all the help that I gave them to develop the product, that they didn't send this out for free. But it's all good. I had a crazy timeline, didn't have time to talk and chat things out, so I just pulled the trigger on this. In hindsight though, they definitely did do me quite a nice price on this, so I'm happy about that. And we're sending this back, and I'm going to pay for this to get repaired as well. And then what I'm going to probably do is give this away to someone who needs it for their Skyline build and stuff like that you guys probably know on the YouTube platform. Anyways, that all aside, let's go through and show you all the differences. Now I'm going to quickly skim over some of the stuff we talked about before, starting from the front of the turbo. Really small lip here. You could barely get a hose clamp on there. There is nothing to grab onto. It's just straight. It's really small, like I said, so your silicone couplers would fall straight off. You can see here, much wider now, and you've actually got a lip here to stop it from falling off. Moving on to the compressor housing here, nipples for the vac lines on both the actuator and the compressor housing, much bigger with multiple bulbs. Previously, just this tiny little guy here. If my camera focuses, come on Canon, you can do it, buddy. You've got it. There we go in the end. So yeah, really small. No one's ever using small vac lines like that. So anyways, that is all sorted now. Actuator bracket, I showed you this before, but you can see it's just a flat straight one. This one now is completely redesigned, as you can see there, puts it in the right position. Now I've got this all loosened up and stuff, both for the exhaust and the compressor housing, because you do need to clock it a tiny bit when you get it on there just to get everything perfect. So that's all ready for me tomorrow. You can see I've got that all loose. Exhaust housing, this is a 0.73 AR, this is a 0.71 AR, just a tiny bit of difference, and that was to suit the newer wheel and stuff like that, which we'll get to now. Rear turbine wheel, this one is 9 blade, and the one in this one, if I flip it up, is 10 blade. So we'll count from, you can just see just by looking at it. I don't think we need to count it, but yeah, you can see there's more blades there. You can see there's less blades here. More doesn't mean better, less necessarily doesn't mean better either. It's just how they're designed and stuff like that. What they said is that this is more of like a Gen 2 kind of design. So this one actually flows more and should spool faster as well. Second thing is this little flappy guy here. So a little bit of a bigger internal wastegate now. That's all been machined out and ported. It's been machined in here so that there's no way that this can catch anymore. That literally was never machined on this one. You can see here, if I just pull the actuator off too, you can see here that that's a bit small. Now I did port this out a bit, so it does probably look a tiny bit bigger, but yeah, this wastegate is nowhere near as good. And it catches on the wall here, which really sucks. Like as it goes up, it's hard to make it do that, but you got to put pressure on it from the actuator and then it'll get stuck. So yeah, there was that issue. And then the other thing was they machined on the inside of the housing more as well, which was really good to see, which is another thing that I asked them to do. So yeah, all in all, and then nice big weld there on the shaft, on the sleeve that they press into the housing that the shaft goes through for the flapper. And then you can see on the outside here, they put another 3 tack welds. It's hard to see this, but there's 3 more welds on the outside here. 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, overall, they've really fixed the product, taken all my feedback on board, which is good to see. So if any of you guys are getting this kit, just know that I had a part in it and it was pretty sick. So yeah, I'm pretty keen to see what this new rear wheel is going to do, if it's going to be any better or anything like that. We'll find out, but obviously, you know, we've got an extra 2mm in the rehousing, which I don't think is going to be too much, but yeah. Anyways, I'm keen to get this bolted on tomorrow and then finish off the tune on the Skyline and start ripping in that some more, because that thing's been a lot of fun up until we had issues with this. So yeah, anyways, that aside, this thing's going to get rebuilt. Like I said, it's going to be good. And like the kits come with pretty much everything. This one though, I will be honest with you guys, I'm a bit confused why they sent these studs, because you're meant to run a T3 spacer with the factory manifold, right? And these studs, right, they barely come through enough for the factory one. If you put this T3 flange on there and then I push the stud through to where it'll be bolted into the actual manifold, right? That's all the threads that they give you, right? That's like 2 threads there right now. It's insane. And like this part here, well, probably about there is where it'll be in the manifold, but you still only get like 3 threads. That is not enough. So I'll talk to them about including longer studs, because that's not good. But otherwise, everything else comes in the kit. It's very versatile. I don't really know what else to say. It's a bolt-on turbo kit for an RB25, and I'm sure a lot of you guys who have a really small budget will enjoy this. But if you have the patience, save up and get yourself a Garrett. Or if you have the cash, definitely get yourself a Garrett, because that's definitely the end of the scale of what you want to get. And honestly, if you have the money though, you won't be mucking around with the bolt-on turbo kit. Let's just be real, guys. You'd be getting a proper, you know, V-band out with an external wastegate and a nice manifold. So yeah. So there you guys go. I'm going to call this episode 9 of the never-ending Skyline saga. At least it feels that way. I guess it's hard to kind of express this, and a lot of people would watch this and just think, oh man, Skylines are so unreliable. That's not true. It's just that these problems with the tools and the things that I have access to, the only way to solve the issue and figure it all out is go through everything systematically and, you know, trial and error before you work out what it is. It's called troubleshooting, right? So yeah, at the end of the day, it turned out 2 main things. My cam angle sensor is worn out and causing problems, and second thing is this turbo that have just caused a bunch of issues. We already figured out all the other issues, you know, with VCT not being enabled and bad tunes and stuff in the past and stuff like that, and ECU not being set up and all that kind of stuff. So that's all been fixed, and we saw a massive improvement there. And then we started having issues with the CAS and the turbo, and those 2 things compounded, and we stopped and sidelined the car for a bit. So tomorrow is going to be a huge day. I've got to pull the whole front of the engine apart again to set up everything for the timing and the trigger kit. When I was troubleshooting the CAS issue, we wanted to make sure there wasn't an issue with the timing belt not being tight enough or the tensioner failing. So what I did was, when I was at the track and pulled it apart that day, was I retensioned it and made it a little bit tighter than what the book says for like the service manual, just to compensate in case the tensioner was playing up or the belt was loose or anything like that. Now what that did was that created the common RB too tight timing belt whine, which I was expecting it to, and the good thing with that was we knew then that it wasn't actually the tensioner failing, because still at high RPMs we'd see the RPM thing jump all over the place. So yeah, that proved that the cam angle sensor is worn out and causing problems. So that's getting replaced with an NZ wiring trigger kit. Should arrive tomorrow. And then I need to obviously put the turbo back on. But before we do anything tomorrow morning, the first thing that I'm going to do is actually a compression test on the engine. Just want to make sure that it's definitely all fine. We did do one recently just before we started doing the new tune and stuff like that, and we were all good. We were like 180 or something across all pistons, which is really, really healthy for an RB. So yeah, we'll do that tomorrow as well, just for peace of mind. And then we'll slap everything together and go from there. So thanks for watching, guys. A lot of technical stuff in this video. I hope you watch to the end and get yourself some SAMMIT merch. Catch you all tomorrow. Hopefully the Skyline's driving in by then. Peace out. Jamata.